Hey basketball coaches and players, today I'm going to give you some easy and effective basketball plays that you could run with your team. Let's get down and let's check out the first play. So this first play essentially gives you one low post player, and then we're essentially going to be running four corners. From there, what we want to see is to try and get some inside out action. This works against a man-to-man and a zone defense, and I'll be showing you against both. But what we want to see is we want to have a quick screen by player 2, and then this is going to be not a screen and roll but a screen and pop. When that screen happens, we're going to see player 1, he's going to be using that screen, filling in player 2's spot, and at the same time, we're going to be having player 5 showing to the high post. So essentially, we're going to be having player 1 head over here, player 5 heading to that high post, and player 2 popping off of that screen. So of course, we may have an option where player 1 fights over the screen. There may have been a little bit of a hedge, and of course, we could have an open 3 by player 2. That is an option. That is something that does happen. However, what we are looking to have here is after that screen, we want to feed that high post, and then depending on who we're playing against, if we're playing against a man-to-man, we're going to have a double pin-down screen by players 2 and 1. When this happens, we can either have player 5 go one-on-one against his man, which can become a bit complicated in the low post. However, what we're looking for is players 3 and 4 to pop up towards those same spots that players 1 and 2 were in, and they may be open, or at least one of them should be open for a 3-point shot, and of course that is the main option that we're trying to get to. However, if we're playing against something like a 2-3 zone, what you may see is with player 5 being in that high post, that's going to be drawing up player 5 red. When that happens, we can have player 4 cut back door at the same time as player 2 heading towards that right side. This is all going to be decided by, at the beginning, saying right or left when that pass goes into player 5. The whole main idea is when player 2 pops down towards this low corner, we're essentially putting player 4 in a tough spot. This can either be a pass inside for player 4, which most of the time player 4 red is going to be leaving the corner and following player 4 down, which case we can just pass out to player 2 for a 3-point shot. And then, if that does not happen, let's say player 4 recovers, we can do a quick pass into 4 for a layup. So I'll show you once again the whole play, but this time for the zone. We're going to be still setting that screen for player 1. Player 1 is going to use that screen. This is going to be popping off. Player 5 is going to be showing to the high post, and we're going to be having that entrance pass into player 5. We can run this play on this side like I just showed you, or we can run it on this side instead. And when it happens on this side, player 3 is going to be cutting in, and then player 1 is going to be cutting down. When this happens, player 3 is put into a tough spot where player 5 can make that pass here, or if player 3 is covering too tight, then we would have a pass out to the corner. The other option as well is if player 3 gets that pass and then gets covered, we can then have that kick out pass to player 1, or if player 4 is playing just a bit too high, player 4 blue could cut back door as well. That usually doesn't happen. What we would be looking for is the kick out pass to player 1 for the 3. This next play is going to be a 5-out offense, and again, very easy and effective to run. Really quickly, however, if you want the complete guide to the 5-out basketball offense, make sure to go down in the description and check it out. So one of the most riskier passes that we will see is a point-to-wing pass, and then vice versa, a wing-to-point pass. These are generally very difficult to get through. However, we can use this to our advantage, and I call this a 5-out to overload offense. This works against man-to-man and zone defenses, and what we are going to have is player 5 and 3 cutting towards this right side to the low and high post. Obviously, with a man-to-man defense, they're going to be following. And what we want to see is player 4, he's going to be cutting down towards the net. Player 1 should take a dribble or two out towards this left side to clear up some space. And then at the same time, we're going to be having player 2 cut out towards this corner. So basically, we're going to have player 4 cutting towards the basket, player 2 cutting out towards the corner. This gives player 1 a couple of different options, and also gives player 4 a couple of options as well. So for example, player 2 cuts out, player 4 cuts through. If we pass to player 4, he may be open for a floater or a left-handed shot. If player 2's man gets through and decides to play help defense on player 4 then has the option to kick it out for a three-point shot by player 2. And again, this does work against a zone. However, it will work a bit differently. So as an example, against a 2-3 zone defense, usually you're going to be seeing these two players try to trap up top, try to force towards the sidelines. You're going to be seeing usually players 3 and 4 playing a bit higher. Player 5 tends to play a bit lower. That way he can cut off any backdoor cuts. From there, what we're going to have, same idea, we're going to have players 4 and 3 on the left side. You can do this on the right side as well. It doesn't necessarily matter. But players 3 and 4 cutting across. When they're cutting across, there's so many different options that we're showing. Because now we've overloaded this side. Basically, we've got essentially 2 players defending 4. And it really does become complicated for the defense. One option when player 4 is cutting across is to pass him the ball, which would then rise player 5 higher, and then we can have a high to low post pass for an easy layup. That's our first option. Our second option is to get player 4 that ball in the high post, which may collapse that defense a bit higher, and he has essentially 3 different options for the pass. That's a rare option, however, that does happen. So essentially by passing player 4 the ball, we have a couple of different things, or at least options, to pop up for us, and depending on what type of defensive situation, we may have different options. However, if we're playing against, let's say, a 3-2 zone, what you're going to find is usually player 2 being absolutely wide open. And if that's the case, you kick that ball out, that would bring player 4 out as well. We could have a quick pass in towards that low post and an easy basket. Now going back to that 2-3 zone, what we could also see happen is a pass over to player 5, which would then bring up player 4 and have player 5 essentially guard between players 3 and 4. When this happens, we would just make an extra pass over to player 2 for a 3-point shot. Essentially, there's no dribbling hardly at all with this play. Now this last play will also work against a zone and man. It's again another 5-out offense. 5-out offenses seem to be very easy to run, especially at the middle school and high school level. Against a man anyways, we're going to have a double screen up top, and that's not going to change when we go against a zone. From there, these are going to be our 2 biggest players on the court. We want them to be our centers, or our center and our forward, whatever it may be. Player 1 can make that decision on which side to then attack. If he goes towards his right side, we want to see player 5 roll off, especially if his man hedges and tries to guard player 1. Usually that'll happen when player 1, red, the defender, will try to fight over top the screen. That'll happen, he'll shadow player 1, and player 5 will roll towards the basket. We can get some easy layups that way. It's just a simple screen and roll. However, if that's not open, what's going to happen is player 5, we want to see him try to post up for 1 to 2 seconds only in the low post, and then we want to see player 2, this is why centers need to be able to shoot, by the way, we're going to have player 2 set the pin down screen for player 5, and player 5 is going to be then popping out. Player 5 may be open for that 3-point shot. We're also going to be setting a pin down screen on the opposite side in case we have no option happening over here. We can then pass that ball up top, reset up our offense, or obviously pass player 5 that ball for the 3-point shot. If we do set up our offense once again, what we would be looking to essentially do is to have player 4 fill up, player 2 fill out, and at that point we would be still back into our 5-out offense, and we can run through either a quick pass and cut style offense where we can pass, cut towards the basket, fill, maybe layup or fill out, one or the other, but something very, very simple when it comes to a 5-out offense, because by the time you're finished the play through, you may only have 5 or 6 seconds left of the actual shot clock if your league runs a shot clock. I hope that these 3 plays help your team win more games. If they do, hit that like button, subscribe, go check out my complete guide to the 5-out basketball offense down in the description below.